this hour. We repeat, these are the facts as we know them.
And that's when she looked in the rearview mirror.
Some technology from another dimension, another world.
You're still afraid.
I don't know what it was.
A sign of life and death, except.
This will scare you.
Hello, I'm Shannon Brown, and this will scare you. This is a Scary Stories podcast where my guest and I will tell you all kinds of terrifying tales like hauntings, possessions, cryptids, UFOs, shadow people, and unexplained events. My guest today is Jen Curcio. She's one. She's also a bird.
Yes.
She's one of the hosts of the spooky podcast, A Touch from the Past, and a big fan of horror and home haunts. Jen, thank you for being my first guest on my first episode.
Thank you for having me on the first episode. I'm so excited.
This is kind of episode 1.5 because we did record this episode once already, but I messed it up because it was the first one. But I mixed up some of the stories, so we've got some different ones for you. So we have some new information to scare you.
I'm excited because I was scared the first time.
I did get scared too. I made the same mistake that I made tonight and did not close the curtains on the windows behind me, so I can like kind of see it like out of the corner of my eye / in like the phone chat that we have going.
Yeah.
And it's really creepy. So
I see it.
I don't know. Is the mirror any better?
Yeah, no, the mirror's fine because I can't even see the mirror. I just see most of the door.
Okay. Well, I'm all the way in my closet now, so here we are, baby. So yeah, I guess we'll just hop right into it if you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
You're freaking stoked?
Yes.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, Jen.
Yeah.
Imagine you saw a friend or even your partner, but something was a little bit off about them. Maybe it's their clothes or the way that they walk, or maybe it's just because they're kind of looking right through you. The next thing you know, the real person walks in the room. What was that creature you just saw? My topic this episode is doppelgangers. In ancient Egyptian mythology, a ka was a tangible spirit double, having the same memories and feelings as the human. Scandinavians have a vardoger, which is similar to deja vu, but in reverse, where the spirit with the subject's footsteps, voice, scent, appearance, or demeanor precedes them in a location or activity, resulting in witnesses believing that they've seen or heard the actual person before the person physically arrives. There's also a theory called bilocation, which means you have the ability to be in two places at once, which to me just kind of sounds like a Catholic way of explaining doppelgangers, because although Catholicism kind of requires you to believe in a lot of paranormal and mystic events, it's frowned upon to actually believe in ghosts and things that God did not have a hand in. But, we also have doppelganger, which is a German word used to describe the apparition or double of a living person. Now, people use doppelganger to describe two unrelated people who look alike. We most commonly see this in clickbait articles listing celebrity doppelgangers or twin strangers. There are many saints who are said to have bilocated, but one of the more recent and more well-known stories is that of Padre Pio. In 1917, a priest by the name of Father Alberto saw Padre Pio standing in front of a window looking at the mountain and talking to himself. He approached Padre Pio, but he didn't react. Father Alberto noticed Padre Pio's hand was rigid. He also clearly heard Padre Pio giving absolution and pardon to someone. After a while, Padre Pio shook like he just woke up from a nap. He looked at Father Alberto and said, "You're here. I didn't realize it." After a few days, a telegram came from Turin. Someone was thanking the superior of the convent for having sent Padre Pio to assist a dying person. Padre Pio was there giving the man his last rites as he died, and that is what Father Alberto was hearing at the exact same moment he came in contact with Padre Pio's doppelganger. Now, there was another story which I feel like my grandparents and my mother would be very upset with me for making fun of a religious figure, but there was a story that in 1946, a family went from Philly to Italy to thank Padre Pio because they claimed that their son, who was a World War II pilot, his plane had been shot down. Everyone else on the plane, they couldn't escape in time. They all died. However, this one man in midair, just hurtling towards the ground, unable to open his chute, doomed for certain death, was caught by a friar with a white beard. It turned out it was Padre Pio. Padre Pio gently guided him to the ground, and it turns out the guy's mother had prayed to Padre Pio to keep her son safe. So they believe that Padre Pio bilocated to the sky and saved this man's life.
I just don't like, how did she know to pray to him? Like, was he so like world renownedly famous?
Well, he was, I think by 1946, he had become more well known
Oh.
because I think he was like kind of known for bilocating, but he was also someone in more modern times to have documented stigmata.
Oh, yeah.
So that, I feel like if a religious figure gets stigmata, most Catholics, he's now canon, like he did become a saint.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I mean, when you're big enough to become a saint, I feel like people know about you when you're alive.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because like I didn't even bother with friendship as a child because I was like, how do I even reach these people? Open
Let
a
alone saving someone in the sky.
Yeah, like, so I was like, I don't even know, like, to pick up a phone book. How is she gonna know, like, to pray to that specific guy? That's cool though.
Well, I feel like the bigger question is, if this was real, how would he have known where to find this guy?
Yeah.
Like just in a general area, let alone a specific point in the sky.
Yeah, and which plane, which soldier, all that stuff.
Yeah, was it a hallucination? Was it actually Padre Pio? People do claim that they say like they've seen angels saving them in disasters or car crashes or things like that.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. I'm not Padre Pio. I don't want him to stigmata me, so I'm not gonna
Yeah.
speak ill of him.
Yeah,
Hell yeah, Padre Pio.
I'm not saying anything bad about him.
May he rest in peace.
Yes.
Or two pieces in two places.
Yeah. In one whole piece, but like a mirror image.
Several areas.
Yes.
Yeah. Historically, however, doppelgangers have been seen as a harbinger of bad luck and even death. Emily Saget started working at a French language private girls' school in Latvia. It was 1845, and Emily was a talented, beloved instructor with years of experience under her belt. At only 32, her reputation took a turn for the strange. One day, as she stood before her students writing on the chalkboard during a lesson, the girls saw something peculiar. A second Emily appeared in front of the class, an exact replica, mimicking her movements. Her students sat stunned. Was this a prank played by their new favorite teacher? Emily claimed she had no idea what they were talking about. The creature then continued to show itself in the dining hall, in classrooms, even beside Emily as she hemmed a student's dress. Now, Emily's childhood was rather lonely. She didn't play with the other kids in her village, and they all assumed she and her sister were all the friends one another needed, since they were always together. However, they did find it strange that one didn't seem to notice the other, and the twin was usually mimicking Emily's movements. Her family was aware of this ghastly creature, but did their best to keep things quiet. Their village would not have reacted kindly to this unexplainable, unholy being. Emily continued teaching at the school, dealing with bouts of fatigue, weakness, and appearing to have all the color drained from her face every time the second Emily appeared. Slowly, word got out that Emily had worked for 18 schools in 16 years. Had she continuously relocated in an attempt to rid herself of her mirror image? On a warm summer day in 1846, 42 students sat in a large hall with grand windows that overlooked the campus garden for a sewing lesson. They saw Emily out there amongst the flowers, working away in the summer sun. Their sewing teacher had to step out for a moment, and as she left the room, Emily appeared in front of her students. All seemed fine until the girls realized that the real Emily was still outside in the garden. The class was terrified. Two girls mustered up some courage, having experienced this for years at this point, and approached the creature and tried to touch her. But their hands went through her. It felt like they were touching cobwebs.
Ew.
She then disappeared. Later, they learned that while Emily was working in the garden, she was thinking about being in class with her girls. This doppelganger ended up costing Emily her job. She was fired after these events became too disturbing for the students and staff members to bear. Was it the ghost of Emily's twin who had died as an infant? Was Emily able to astral project? Or was this something much more sinister? 175 years later, we're still left with questions. Was Emily lying about not seeing her double? And what's worse, a Victorian child ghost or seeing a Victorian adult doppelganger made of cobwebs? What do you think, Jen? Curcio?
I think the cobweb ghost is scary as hell. I hate cobwebs, but I have no idea what that's so wild. It's so weird. It's especially weird that the cobweb feeling, because I would have thought it'd be like a cold spot, not necessarily like anything with real texture to it.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe that this was real and this took place and you believe all of these accounts, what was
Yeah.
it? Was that a manifestation of energy? Was that some sort of otherworldly being, something that came from the other side, something that came from a time glitch in the Matrix? Is it, what was it?
Oh my god, it
And
reminds. Oh, go ahead.
now we know that you would much rather have a Victorian child ghost in your home.
Yeah, I would, because I hate spider webs that much.
Too sticky.
That, you know what? I don't know. I walked out on my balcony the other day and I just got one right across the face and I was like, ah,
Maybe that was her.
oh no. It was my doppelganger.
Yeah, what if every cobweb that you walk through is actually just a doppelganger that you didn't
That's
see?
that's so weird. That'd be so weird. I'd prefer it just to be a spider web, because I feel like it's even weirder if it's your doppelganger or like a doppelganger.
Well, I've got a few more experiences for you. These are going to be more present day.
Okay.
So, a user by the name of Caging Thoughts said, "My uncle told me a story about going to his mom's house with his then girlfriend. The girlfriend decided she wanted to stay in the car because she was tired and he was only going to be running in for a second. Well, when he went in, he got to talking to his mom in the kitchen and they eventually moved out to the back porch. Once they were outside, the girlfriend called him and asked why he keeps telling her to come in. He asked what she was talking about, and she said that he had been upstairs smiling and waving to her from the second-story window. He told her he hadn't even been upstairs in the house. He went out to check the front of the house and looked up, and no one was even in the window. His mom went to check, but nothing was there." This story is from user The Hills Have Cries.
Oh, that's much
One,
scarier.
yeah. One day, my aunt was in the house when my older cousin, P, was younger and I wasn't born yet. She had sprayed cleaner on the counter and stepped outside for a cigarette. As she walked back in and as she looked across the room, it was a very open house. she saw someone she never knew messing with the suds on the counter. She called out, and they looked at her, and she swears it was herself, and it started mimicking her movements like a mirror.
Ooh.
After about 2 minutes of staring at each other, it opened the side door and ran across her giant yard faster than she could comprehend, until it went over her iron fence and out of sight, but not before looking back at her, mimicking her hand above her eyes as to block the sun. She went back to the counter and it said, "Get pee now," and she freaked the hell out and ran outside screaming for her son. Little to their knowledge, he had happened to be playing in a field that was getting harvested by a combine, and he was completely lost. He had been scared shitless running aimlessly while this combine was tearing up the field around him until he heard his mom calling. Then he knew where to run.
Damn, that one's really scary.
I mean, it is extremely creepy, but that was a helpful doppelganger.
Yeah, that was like a nice, helpful one. But it was extra creepy because when you were telling me that story, the computer was like lagging, so like you looked really blurry and like your eyes looked like just dark circles.
Oh, Jen, my eyes
No,
look like that all the time.
they do not. They do not. It was because my computer was like everything was just blurry, so like your whole face was like super pixelated. But no, you look great. But it was
Oh my
that's
God,
a really
thank you.
you're welcome. That story is so creepy. I'd freak out. I mean, just walking in and seeing someone you don't know is terrifying, but seeing someone you don't know and then realizing it's you and then seeing that message, it's like multi-level scary.
Well, Miss Princess Pig has a story about seeing her mom. She was 18 and living in a big house in a small village with her mom. They had a large garden with a designated area for their 8 rabbits. Every evening, they would take turns and go out to feed the animals before it got dark, which sounds like a dream. A giant yard, a bunch of rabbits. This sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
However, this particular evening, we had arrived home late, so it was already darker than usual. We agreed to feed the rabbits together because it can be quite creepy out in the garden alone at night. I went to the bathroom and told my mom I would meet her out there in a minute. When I was done, I went straight to the garden where I heard my mom call, "Jess," as she heard the door close behind me. I answered, "Yes," and saw her upper body pop up from behind the trampoline to make sure it was me. There were no outside lights, however, the combination of the moon, stars, and distant low light of the motorway was enough to illuminate the area to be able to see her quite clearly. I was only around 10 meters away from her or so, and I could see her face and her very distinct, big, curly, blonde hair. She said, "Okay," and bent back down behind the trampoline and continued to feed the rabbits. I looked down at the grass as I made my way to the bottom of the garden as to not step into any holes dug out by the rabbits during their runaround time. As I made my way down, I spoke to her about how naughty one of the rabbits had been acting that day. It took me no longer than 7 seconds to get up to the rabbit area. As I approached the trampoline where the rabbits' hutches were, I looked up and expected to see my mom standing there, as I had just seen and spoken to her a few moments before. She wasn't there. I looked around for a few seconds, thinking she might be hiding in order to give me a playful scare when, to my horror, I heard the back door of the house close. I looked up quickly and saw my mom walking out into the garden. I immediately speed walked up that garden towards her so fast with total terror in my eyes. She asked me what was the matter, and I explained to her, "Jesus Christ, I'm never going down there again. I just saw you and spoke to you, and by the time I got down there, you were gone." She looked at me wide-eyed and assured me that she had been in the kitchen getting her shoes on. She is not skeptical at all about these kinds of things, and from the look on my face, she could tell I had experienced quite a scare, so she believed me straight away. So we were both quite nervous about going back down there. However, the rabbits needed feeding, so we had a nervous laugh and cautiously went down to feed the rabbits together. We had a look around, and there was nothing there. I don't know who or what I spoke to in my garden. Maybe it was a glitch in the Matrix and my mom from another timeline appeared to feed my rabbits, or perhaps there were some darker forces at work that night. I read a little about doppelgangers and how some people recognize them as a warning of death. Not long after this incident, half of my rabbits dropped dead within a few days of each other.
What?
A commenter said, "You're probably lucky you didn't go missing. It could have been a glitch. Here in my village, we have things in the woods that mimic people we know. They try to lure us in, but everyone tells us never to enter the woods at night." Are doppelgangers just other living people who happen to look like us? Or are they something otherworldly? Some speculate they're the us from another dimension, appearing to us due to a glitch. What do you think, Jen Curcio? I know you've had interactions with your doppelganger.
I did. We dated for, I mean, just a few dates, but yeah, I think at first I didn't think anything of it, but when, we talked about this, I did think about how my aunt died. Cuz all right, so we met on a dating app and then we went on a couple dates and then we were like, oh, like she was really nice. She was like, "Oh, I'm still like getting over my last relationship. I don't think I'm ready yet." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." And then I got a phone call to from my mom that my aunt died. And then as I was on that call, she texted me, was like, "Do you want to go on a date?"
She was like, "I just pressed the big red button. I know you need some consoling. I'm your
Yeah.
doppelganger. I am evil. I'm the
Yeah.
evil one.
She's
I'm made
like,
of cobwebs."
I floated down from the sky with my cobweb body and I swiped your aunt's soul. And so I just wanted to check in and say, hey.
Maybe that's how Padre Pio got up in the sky so easily. He's made of cobwebs and they are very lightweight.
Yeah, he just like flew up there. It was just like whoosh, up there in the sky.
Yeah.
So
Isn't
gross.
that like the Charlotte's Web like breed of spider? They can like fly on their webs.
I don't know. I don't want to
Maybe
think
I'm
about
making that up.
Ugh.
All right, so confirmed you believe doppelgangers killed your aunt and they are made of cobwebs.
Yes, that is. I have confirmation that these are true things.
Oh, Lordy. All right. Well, Jen, I know you have a story as well.
Yeah. So a few years ago, back in 2013, my family and I took a vacation. All of our family vacations were always like spooky, somehow scary, or Halloween related. We've been to Salem for Halloween as a family. So my cousin, my sister, and I went to the Lizzie Borden House for an overnight stay, and it was a great tour. It was early May, so it was almost like fall, like as far as temperatures go. There were some dead leaves on the ground for crunching, but for the most part it was like still bare trees and everything like that. But we got to stay overnight, and they do like a whole tour of the house and they go through the whole trial because she supposedly killed her.
Jen.
Allegedly. I said supposedly, but allegedly
we
her.
are feminists on this podcast, and we do not condemn Lizzie Borden until proven guilty.
Exactly, and she was proven not guilty by the court. She was very charming, apparently, but so she allegedly killed her parents, and the tour guide was saying how like she was kind of like a feminist for back in the day
for murdering a man.
Yes, for murdering her dirtbag father, who wrote her and her sister out of his will. But so she was kind of supposedly a little bit more on the liberal side, and supposedly queer, having a relationship with the maid from Ireland. And they told us, they said that people who stay in her father's room usually have a horrible night's sleep, because any man that stays in that room, because she doesn't like male figures and she hated her dad.
Do they get a splitting headache?
No,
No, they're
apparently
just
it's
tortured
just
by ghosts.
yeah, they're just and their cobweb doppelganger gets them.
Ew.
Kills
Could
everybody.
you
But
imagine being asleep and a ghost is touching you, but it feels like cobwebs are touching you?
that's the worst experience. Sometimes this is a weird sidebar, but sometimes, and I think it's probably just like my brain glitching. I don't know what it is. It's unexplained, but sometimes I hear my old cat Scrub, who's been dead for like 6 years now. Sometimes I'll hear him be like, because he used to come in my
Wow.
room. Yeah, and he would do that in the morning until I woke up, and he would kind of like softly like pat across me, and sometimes I feel that still. So I don't
We
know. I don't know if it's
growing up, we had this cat Murray from before I was a baby until I was 13. He passed away. But, I think we got our other cat Molly when I was like 10. So like she became very attached to Murray. And when he passed away, she sat and stared out the back window to like our backyard for a week and a half, just looking for him.
aw.
And then our whole family would feel, like a cat will rub up against your leg and your ankles. We all felt
Yeah.
these phantom cat rubs. And even
Yeah.
now, I'll still feel that sometimes. And I'm like, I wonder what kind of like weird phantom feeling that is, because like you'll get phantom vibrations for your phone in your pocket when it isn't really there. And I wonder if it's
Yeah.
that or our cat's ghosts. The world will never know.
I wonder about that all the time. Because Scrub definitely wakes me up at like 6 a.m. on Saturdays.
And that's when cats love to wake you up when you don't want to be awake.
Yes. And I'm still like, Scrubby, knock it off. No, he was so cute, but he was always like me. Like if I didn't get up to feed him. No more cat talk. So we stayed in Lizzie's room. Well, my cousin and I stayed in Lizzie's room, and then I think my sister stayed in the guest bedroom, where I think it might have been the maid's bedroom. And then this couple who we didn't know, who was also staying in the house that night, they stayed in Lizzie's parents' house, or yeah, the parents' bedroom. And the next morning, when we all woke up and went downstairs, we were like, where did that couple go? And apparently that guy got so freaked out in the middle of the night, they left. They just took off and
Did
left.
they say why? I mean, I assume like many of the people going to the Lizzie Borden house are coming from out of town, and that's pretty expensive to walk out on. If you got a hotel and a
Yeah.
tour, that's not cheap, right?
No, it was like
Oh
$400
my
a night.
god.
Yeah. But I mean, it was like 400. I think it was 400 for all three of us, so we split it.
Okay.
But
Not so
still,
bad.
that's like pretty steep.
It is steep, but it's cheaper than I thought initially. I was like, wow, old
Yeah.
Moneybags Curcio with a balcony and a $400 a night murder room.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was like the off season too. I think it's way more expensive if you go around the time that the murders happened or around Halloween.
How dark.
I know.
So did
But it's a great place.
they give any indication on the tour that they might have been like freaked out or unhappy? The
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 people, the
humans
other
or the
couple?
ghosts, what have you?
No, the guy was kind of like, "Oh, it's for her birthday. She loves this stuff. She's into murder, so this is just for her
She's
birthday." Like he
into
just seemed like
murder.
yeah.
She just loves when
He
things
seems
are dead, not at their time that they should be, but like prematurely.
Yeah, premature death. She loves it. He seemed really chill about it. He seemed happy that he was doing this nice thing for his girlfriend. And I think they were just boyfriend and girlfriend. Like they were kind of gross in the way that they like made out.
They were
They like
making
made out in front of
out
us.
on a Lizzie
They
Borden
did.
murder tour?
Yeah, and I was like, and they were not. It wasn't because my first thought when I said that was American Horror Story season 2, where it was um Maroon 5, Adam Levine, and playing a guy who's like on his honeymoon, and like they were like a super attractive couple. Like this was not that. It was like two middle-aged people who are just like, we love the the woman was like, I love the ID channel and I'm here. You know?
It's just such a bizarre. It's a bizarre scenario. Middle-aged people who
Yeah.
are just there because she quote unquote loves murder and the ID channel, and is just like, I'm gonna make out in front of all these strangers while they're talking about how allegedly a woman caved in her father's skull. This gets me going.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was the room where her father was murdered
Maybe
that they were just casually making out.
her father felt disrespected and was like, get out of my house.
I'm
People
gonna get him later.
People will lay down and pretend to be me dead all the time, all the live long day. I've grown to be comfortable with it, but do not make out in my house.
Yeah. Yeah, my sister and I did that where I posed, like I had the axe above her head because they had a fake axe. So I guess it was a real axe, but she was laying down on the sofa where he was killed. I have a photo. I'll send it.
We'll put it on the gram. Why not?
Yeah, put it on the gram.
Wow. Well, Jen Curcio, this has been quite a ride. I can't wait to hear more of
Yes.
your ghostly experiences because I know you do have more.
I do.
I want to thank you for being here. I want to encourage our listeners that if they have a story they want me to read on a future listener episode, submit it by emailing story@thiswillscareyou.com. You can follow Jen Curcio on Instagram at Jen Curcio and check out her podcast, A Touch from the Past, on Spotify and iTunes. And you can follow This Will Scare You on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at This Will Scare You. And be sure to subscribe and review. And give us a fair review, me or Jen's podcast, whichever you like. But don't be rude, because you're going to have a cobweb ghost coming after you.
Yeah.
All right. Jen, how do you sign off on your podcast? Do you have like a phrase?
Yeah, we do have a spooky weekend.
Oh.
Yeah, because
but what if they listen to it during the week?
I know, that's the thing. So we release it on Friday, assuming that they would listen to it on Friday or Saturday. But if you listen to it on Monday, it's 4 days that you got to get through.
Well, I mean, your podcast is so good. I bet people are they can't wait to get their grubby little ears all over it. But
thank you.
if they listen to it on a Monday, you give them a spooky weekend to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe one day I'll have a little sign off, but today is not that day. So goodbye.